Welcome back to the Adam Kramer Show, where we ask, analyze, and argue about the hottest pro-life topics. Today, I'm very pleased to have on our show Alex and Miss Terry Beatley from the Hosea Initiative. How are y'all doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm glad to be on.
We're glad to have y'all on. So I want to start off today. We're going to get into the 8-point strategy of Dr. Bernard Nathanson. But I want to start off by just asking each of you why you're pro-life. So let's start with you, Alex.
I am pro-life because just knowing that there are innocent babies being killed every single day by abortion and that they can't stand up for themselves. And I have been given the gift of life. So I want to use that to stand up for them and to use my voice to fight for them.
Right, exactly. And I think that us teenagers, we're the ones who have the power to do anything about it, to change the culture, And so I think that's our job, and that's what's been laid upon our shoulders, and that's what we're here doing today. So Ms. Beatley, how about you?
Let's see. Well, I'm pro-life. Probably the first and the easy answer to say is I'm pro-life because God says to be pro-life. That's number one. To be anything but pro-life really goes against the word of God. For me also, I think being pro-life and, having a heart's desire to spare young women and young men from the scourge of abortion and their babies. I think being pro-life is just the greatest display of love that we can possibly do to give life, to give voice to those innocent babies, and to help the mothers and the fathers, regardless of who they are, how old they are, what economic bracket they're in. We want them to have and be able to share in that gift of life. And that includes the gift of life for their babies. And that's love. So that's why I'm pro-life.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, there's a lot of, generalizations made by the pro-choice movement. There's a lot of generalizations where they say, and targeting, we'll see this with the 8-point strategy, like targeting those communities or like the vulnerable because they're the easiest targets. And so getting into the 8-point strategy, today we're going to be breaking the format a little bit of the Adam Kramer Show. We're going to be going off the ask, analyze, argue thing, and we're really just going to have, a fluid discussion of the 8-point strategy here. So I just want to thank you, Ms. Beatley, first of all, for sending us these fact check booklets. These are fantastic.
Welcome.
These are like just the facts and the information in here that is not mainstream is incredible. And
it's not mainstream.
Not at all.
But we're going to make it mainstream. And I really believe the teenagers will carry it over the finish line. I do. I really do.
Mm-hmm. So first off, would you mind telling us a little bit about the Hosea Initiative? Because that's where this has been published from. And also your incredible book that we're going to be doing a book club on throughout the month of April, What If We've Been Wrong? So how about, would you mind telling us a little bit about the Hosea Initiative, what y'all are doing over there?
Yeah, Hosea Initiative, it's a nonprofit educational organization. It was founded by me in the state of Virginia, but it's now all over the country. Our materials are all over the country, and I've spoken in about 25 states. The purpose of it is to help restore and unify Americans around a culture of life ethic. For all of your life and then longer, this country's been steeped in a culture of death. Abortion is just one of the things. We want to help educate Americans on the history of how we shifted from being a pro-life country to a pro-abortion country, and then end abortion and really unify Americans around a culture of life ethic. And the reason why I'm doing this is I made a promise to the father of the abortion industry, Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who became 100% pro-life. He wanted every American to know the truth of how he deceived our country with the lie that abortion is women's health care. So that's what Hosea Initiative is all about. We're very laser focused on Dr. Bernard Nathanson because of the promise I made him.
That's incredible. And that's in your book here too. The promise to continue teaching the strategy he used to deceive.
That's right. Well, then the why part on that is when I had the opportunity to interview him on December 1st, 2009 in Manhattan, New York. And it's a whole nother story of how I ended up with that interview. But I sat beside this old dying man. He was 83 years old, terminally ill with cancer. And he so deeply regretted unleashing abortion onto our country. And at that time, there were about 52 million aborted babies. And now we're at 62 million. And at the end of the interview, I said, Dr. Nathanson, if you have a message for America, tell me what it is. And I promise you, I'll deliver it across our country until it becomes common knowledge, or until Roe v. Wade is overturned, which means that issue is brought back to the states where it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
And he said, yes, he said, continue teaching the strategy of how I deceived America. And then there was a little bit more to that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where this little fact check booklet comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so just going through his story, how did he get to the 8-point strategy? So how did we go from, raging in the abortion industry? It was booming while he was in it. Like, I mean, it's the subtitle here is "Who was America's Abortion King," and that's incredible to call him the Abortion King. How did he get to that point? And then what's his like conversion story there?
Yeah, well, he had become an OBGYN, and by the time he really he stepped into the abortion industry because sadly he got a girlfriend pregnant, and his Dr. Nathanson's father paid for that abortion, and the young lady almost died. That's the first step into abortion. Then he got another girlfriend pregnant later on, but by this point he was a doctor, and he performed the abortion on his girlfriend, on their baby. And he had not 1 ounce of thought about the baby whatsoever. In fact, he was very prideful that he was able to perform that abortion. I think it was in 30 minutes or less. Sounds horrible. And then he partnered Lawrence later, and over a dinner party, and Lawrence later declared that abortion should be made legal. Well, Dr. Nathanson had been thinking that, but he wasn't brave enough to come out of the box all by himself. But he collaborated with Lawrence later, who, by the way, worked a number of years earlier for the first communist card-carrying congressman on Capitol Hill. So these revolutionary, radical ideas were nothing new for Lawrence later. So they partnered up and they formed the organization that today, a lot of the young people will know it as NARAL, Pro-Choice America, NARAL. That's an acronym. Back then, in the late 60s, when they formed NARAL, it stood for the National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws. So they were setting out to repeal all of the pro-life laws, and this was before Roe v. Wade.
So they had basically made it their mission to make abortion absolutely mainstream. This was like to take out the roots of our our creed, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, like the thing that
right.
every human being is entitled to in the Declaration of Independence. So they had made it their mission to absolutely uproot all of that, and take out our most vulnerable, the unborn.
Mm-hmm. But they couldn't just jump out of the box and start marketing abortion like, oh, it's the next best thing. They had to deploy a very, very stealthy strategy. And this is what I believe is that when teenagers learn this 8-point strategy, and it's all in this little booklet, we want every teenager in America, and I mean it literally, to have a copy of this booklet. Okay, because why? Because we literally measured a pair of Levi jeans so the booklet would fit in the back pocket of a pair of Levi jeans or any kind of pocket or a purse or a backpack. So, and we printed it on really nice paper. So when you get it, you realize this isn't something you can just throw away. So in it, we explain the 8-point propaganda strategy Dr. Nathanson used with the people on the board of directors of NARAL. And it was, Jesus warns us in John 10:10 that Satan comes to kill, deceive, and destroy. So what I'm about to explain is It's nothing more than a propaganda campaign to deceive the American public, judges, the media, many people in the clergy, teachers, and of course, millions of young, scared, young women and men, and also legislators, okay, and voters. So the whole thing was put together in a very stealthy, effective, and it proved to be a very deadly, successful campaign. So if we want to, we could go through the 8 points. Is that what you'd like to do? Maybe we can kind of do it together so it's not a monologue here.
Exactly right. Yes. So, and that actually brings us straight to point number 1. They had to make it appealable to people they wanted to convince. So that framing the argument, point number 1 here.
That's right. Well, and everybody knows this who's watching this. Americans love choice. So they literally frame the debate around choice. Think about all the different tennis shoes, that you can choose from, or clothing. That's all about the free market, enterprise system. We love choices. So they didn't frame the debate around the right of a woman to kill her baby in the womb. They would never have made it to first base. It was simply choice, because that's very appealing. That's point number 1.
Yes. And this is incredibly dangerous, especially because, we still see this today. It's shown as, a great thing to have an abortion. Like, it's almost a rite of passage. We talked about that with Sam Byrne last week, how it's become, you're a weak woman if you don't have an abortion. And it strips absolutely everything we know about womanhood.
That's right.
From actual womanhood. So by framing the argument this way and making it appealing, and effectively, this is all leading up to a lie. This is like, it's all lying, and it's we'll see that later on, especially with points 4 and 5. But this one is just absolutely frightening to see that they were able to convince all these people that this was okay.
Yeah, it's just a choice. And in fact, Dr. Nathan's, I wish I don't have it with me, but I was able to get one of his quotes into the Supreme Court in January 2020. It was a big Supreme Court Louisiana case. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but Dr. Nathanson, after he became pro-life, he wrote that giving it abortion just the barest patina of legitimacy and a medical decision, by saying that it was a decision between a woman and her doctor. But then he declares that it was no more, just like it is today, it's no more a decision between a woman and her doctor. He says it's just like a woman going to get, say, a nose job or other changes in her body made. And he said abortion was just like that. He said it didn't really involve the doctor. The woman's mind is already made up. There's no grand consultation with a medical doctor. She walks in and he executes her baby, period. And that's what Dr. Nathanson made it known.
Like, it's effectively repealing what he had done in point 1.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Right. That's right. And they hired a public relations firm for about $7,500. This was all done up in New York City. This is where they launched NARAL. And the point number 2, the public relations firm told them that you've got to come up with slogans, real, crafty slogans to deceive people. So that's where it was my body, my choice, every baby a wanted baby, abortion's a personal decision, and a lot of these slogans, they're still in effect today, as we all know. So, but that's part of it, and they're still around.
Right. And with point 2, all these slogans, they just shut everybody else down. Like, it goes to the whole it's a choice thing. Right. It goes to point 1, it goes in conjunction with it, but at the same time, it's fleshing out and it's saying, okay, so yes, it's a woman's choice. And then these slogans effectively say it's only the woman's choice. Nobody else has a say. You can't even have an opinion about whether or not this should be legal. Right. I know no uterus, no opinion is another slogan that has come up.
Right.
And, as a pro-life gentleman, not the duty of a man is to protect his wife and his child, or his girlfriend and his child, whatever their case may be. But a duty of a man is to protect. And to be told that I'm not allowed to protect the most vulnerable in our society, or to protect, there's no, a man doesn't even have a say in whether or not his
Right.
girlfriend can have an abortion or his wife can have an abortion. But like, that's taking out the fatherhood aspect of it. It's just stripping away everything that we know to be normal.
Right. I 100% agree with you. And at Jose Initiative, we are very adamant about and making it known that we believe more men must be involved in the pro-life movement. Sometimes that doesn't settle well with certain groups out there, but I firmly believe abortion is over when more men step up to the plate and reclaim, quite frankly, what the devil took from them, which is what you just described. So I say, bring them on.
Right. Exactly.
The charade of abortion is over. And the notion that a man cannot even protect his own family, that's his family. So it's just unbelievable that what's in this little booklet and a few other things led to this position, but I believe it will be overturned. But it's only going to be overturned if the people have the truth, and nobody likes to be lied to. Even if a pro-choicer's out there, I believe that person still would value knowing that the position that they stand on is sand. Okay. Right. And this is also a biblical approach, because that's why I named it Hosea Initiative. It's after Hosea 4:6. My people perish for lack of knowledge. Well, they're dying for lack of knowledge. So as we move forward, we'll even get into more in depth about how devious it was and how audacious they were in their lies.
And with the lies, that brings us to the point number 3: manipulate and use the media. We see how media. I know that there are tons of people, like the news is. I feel like the numbers of people who are watching the news have gone down, especially considering all the different stuff going on with I don't feel like there's much going on more. I feel like the virus is the most going on right now specifically, but there's not much of news going on. So these news anchors are usually people who have credit to their name, usually, or at least they should be.
They should.
And so when right, so when somebody is watching the news and they're being informed and they're being given this point of view without any rebuttal, without any refusal, it's presented as like the only way. And so using the media to present these lies in an appealing fashion, it's just a way to put in effect points 1 and point 2 to frame the argument and to use the slogans to shut anybody who has anything else to say right down.
I totally agree. And it gets more aggressive over the years. And sometimes the words are changed up. It's women's voice. It's a reproductive right. A lot of these words have, they use them at different times, but at the end of the day, we're talking about abortion and the ending of a completely separate human being. So,
yeah. And it's also hard to be in society because you have all of these, famous people and TV shows and all these things that are pushing abortion so hard, making it seem like that is the only option for you.
And I think as teenagers make it more widely known the truth about Dr. Bernard Nathanson and how all of it, I mean, so we're pushing 50 years. Every single bit of it is based on lies and propaganda. And I hold on to the hope that truth still matters. I know it doesn't matter to everybody. They'd rather hold on to their lies and whatever, maybe have 5 abortions. I don't know. But I believe, though, and it's more than just believing, we've experienced it at Jose Initiative with the power of just this little booklet that when people read it, a great example, I mean, I won't name names, but she was an African-American district attorney in a state. And she would have identified herself as a pro-choice liberal. Okay. And then one of the ladies on the Jose Initiative team gave her the booklet, and she read it, and she called the lady on the Jose Initiative team back, and she thanked her, and she said, I had no idea. And she said, here I am, a district attorney who always had considered myself pro-choice. And she said that what I learned in that booklet has caused me to rethink everything on this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
awesome.
goes with that goes along with point number 4 here, the fabricating facts and telling lies, the manipulation going on here
Mm-hmm.
of those people who don't have the knowledge that this is wrong. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you had no knowledge that, if you didn't have the knowledge that we do, which is that life begins at conception, it ends at a natural death,
Right.
and that it's not women's healthcare to kill your child. If you did not know any of that, and you were gotten to by these people, these lies, before you had known any of that, they'd have you hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. It would be it's, and just like you said with the district attorney, they'd gotten to her, and then that's where the truth sets you free, and that's where the facts come in, and you have to understand that, like, when you can point out that these people, when you can point out the lie, and you can point out the truth, the evidence that it is a lie, that's when their sandcastle crumbles. That's when it comes down.
And it's so some of the lies that they would give back in, this is back in the late 60s. So you got to keep in mind, Lawrence Slater, when he chose an OBGYN doctor to be the medical face, that carries a lot of clout. Well, most of the reporters on this issue back in the 60s, probably like today, were young women, and they graduated from liberal universities, secular universities, and they didn't have the foundation, Adam, that you just described, understanding that life does begin at conception. And so Dr. Nathanson, he would stand in front of them at the podium and say, look, we have an epidemic on our hands. 1 million women a year are having back alley abortions, and 5,000 to 10,000 women a year are dying due to complications. Well, if those numbers were true, that would have been an epidemic, and sound the alarm. I'll never forget when I learned this. It's just my jaw dropped. The lies were so audacious. The real number of illegal abortions on the high side, Dr. Nathanson said about 98,000, not 1 million. But even the more staggering number was there were never 5,000 to 10,000 women a year dying of complications. On the high side, it was 200 to 250. But that was not any regular kind of year. Some years it was single digits or just in the 20s. Now that's still too high. These are people dying. But Nathanson would tell the public and all these reporters, 5,000 to 10,000 women a year were dying. It was so audacious.
Mm-hmm. And that goes to, not only is he making up numbers or exaggerating numbers, in point 5, he's quoting the false polling statistics. So it's a lie upon a lie upon a lie.
And so it's I'm glad you just said that, because the lies and the purveyors of the lies, you give it enough decades, they get the lies mixed up. So here's a perfect relevant example, and it's happened in your lifetime. Remember when Judge Kavanaugh was going through the Senate hearings a couple years ago for the Supreme Court justice? I mean, they drag that man to where and back again. Well, Senator Dianne Feinstein, she said in the hearing at some point, she said, well, we can't go back to yesteryear when 1 million women per year are dying. And I was watching this on my, I guess it was on my computer. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's getting the lies mixed up. And let's see, I just had something pop up there. So she was getting the lies mixed up. And I'm like, no, Senator Dianne Feinstein, it was never said 1 million women a year were dying due to illegal abortions. They were saying 5,000 to 10,000 people a year were dying. So my point is, look, if they're going to say the lie, at least get the lie right.
Right.
and then about the 60% number. So when I sat with Dr. Nathanson and asked him about the false polling that he would quote, he said 60% of Americans want abortion on demand legalized. And I said, where'd you get that number? And he put his hand in the air and he pulled it down. And he said, I pulled it out of thin air. Thin air. He said that the public relations firm had advised them that they better have some strong polling numbers because nobody likes to be in the minority. And so he would say 60% of Americans want abortion on demand legalized. The real number was, check this out, 1/10 of 1% of Americans wanted abortion on demand legalized. But he would tell America, he'd tell the reporters, he'd tell the legislators, and he'd tell all of you young people that 60%. It doesn't get much more audacious than that lie.
No, it's like, and the problem is that that was the mainstream. That lie was the mainstream. There was no access to the truth.
Right.
No, like no one without going out of their way to actually see these numbers would know that that was a lie.
Yep, that's it.
And if you have, oh, sorry, if you have, someone standing up there giving you all these facts and information, it makes them sound so much smarter, and you're like, oh, they have to be right in what they're saying.
Right, exactly. And there are things going on today that are very similar to what Dr. Nathanson did, and manipulating the media. So, I mean, Jesus said it himself. Satan comes to kill, deceive, and destroy. And so, but we know the power of truth, and nobody likes to be lied to. So if we can get the truth told, and I believe the truth will pierce hearts and minds, and then we can show people that there's a much better way. There's a much better way than killing a baby. So, but lest I digress here or go down a bunny trail. So what about point number 6? We all know the power of that one.
Oh yeah, repeating the lies over and over and over again. Like you said, nobody likes to be lied to, but I think there's something to be said about how they made sure that they led up everything. They got more and more audacious as they went on. And when they start repeating these lies, that's when they can get more wiggle room to, actually show their true colors and let you know what they're actually really about. And I think that's only something that people with the truth can know. But like, this goes back to point 3 about manipulating the media and stuff like that. The media is one great way to continue getting your lie out there, to continue repeating this over and over again, because there are people who watch it, and because you're a credited source. You are acclaimed. You're known, or you're at least supposed to be known for being truthful and spreading news, not just lies.
Right. And he said, like, when they were developing the slogans, they would sit around the table with this PR firm and they would laugh about it. They'd laugh about how creative some of these slogans were. It was just very, very devious. And then when you think of them who were so scared and scared into abortion, thinking that they had no other choice, that's just sad.
Yeah, it is. And then, and as they get more and more audacious here, that's when, they come out with their true colors with point number 7, justifying decriminalizing abortion.
That's right. Yeah, Dr. Nathanson, he would justify it. He'd tell the reporters, look, the women who want an abortion, they're going to do it. They're going to go procure one somewhere, and whether it's legal or illegal. And he said, let's just make it legal. That's probably going to make it safer, and call it a day. And the doctors won't be criminals either. Well, the problem, though, this is like economics 101 in a way. If you make something legal, the demand for it is going to go up, period. End of story. If you legalize being able to drive 85 miles per hour, versus 55, more people are going to be driving 85, and I'd be one of them.
Right.
So, but it became the self-fulfilling lie, because remember, he would tell the media that 1 million women a year are having abortions. The real number was about 98,000. It became the self-fulfilling lie because within a number of years, in a relatively short period of time, we went up from 98,000 to 1.5 million legal abortions. This is after Roe v. Wade.
Right.
So sadly, what he said came true, but only after they deceived the country.
Right. And, to decriminalize abortion, this is like effectively a kingdom built off of all lies. Like when you call him the abortion king, he indeed did have a kingdom, and like that's what he's built up. But the foundation that it's on, we can see here just by reading the fact checker that they're all lies. They can all be knocked down. It's just
that's right.
We need to get the truth out there, and that's
right. And one of the things we're going to launch, and we can launch it right here today. Our challenge is our request is to challenge America to learn the 8 points of propaganda, and then send us your little selfie videos, okay? And just without looking at it, be able to name them, bam, 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 all 8 points. It only takes like 15 seconds to name them all. And so we're going to be doing this with churches across America, with Great Life Teens, if teens can learn it, and which you'll learn it quicker than somebody 65 years old. So, and then of course the big part, that big one, is number 8, the Catholic strategy. Had you, Alex, had you ever heard of this, the Catholic strategy, until you read it in the booklet?
No, I'd actually never heard of it before.
Adam, how about you? Was this common knowledge to you?
Not at all. I mean, I know that the Catholic Church is not ultimately, but it has always been opposed to abortion. The standing with the Church is that, life begins at conception and ends at natural death. So that all life is sacred and ought to be protected with the dignity and respect of a regular human person.
Right.
But I did not know, because obviously, of course, the Catholic Church would be one of their targets, because it's the main upstanding kingdom built on all truth. It's like it's almost a complete parallel to this abortion kingdom and the kingdom of God. You see all this wonderful truth built up with the kingdom of God, and then all these lies and all these terrible lies. It's just incredible to see the parallels here. And there is so much. And you see the 4 points for the Catholic strategy, the 4 parts of it: blame, emphasize, support, and straddle. Like you can see how those get more, aggressive as they go on. By the end, so starting with blame, and then ultimately culminating in a straddle. And so how did he come up with the Catholic strategy to there's the picture here is a chess game, and I think that's really actually poignant to what we were saying about the parallels between of course the kingdom of God and the
That's right. But we know what that queen can do, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think she's doing it right now. Let's see. So NARAL, was founded in New York. And when it was founded, this is before Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade's 1973. Well, I mean, it was 2 years leading up to it, but they opined in January 1973. So Lawrence Lader and Dr. Nathanson were forming NARAL in the late 1960s in New York. And New York had a 140-year-old law that protected babies in the womb. So they figured the first law they need to go after and become the front runner, with this new organization, is to help overturn that 140-year-old law. And it wasn't just NARAL, it was other people, maybe organizations as well. But NARAL realized it was a very fractured pro-abortion movement. And Lawrence Lader said, if we can be the first pro-abortion political action organization out there, people will get behind us. And he was absolutely right. It was a brilliant political move. But Lawrence Lader also recognized something that the law got overturned in April of 1970, making New York the most aggressive abortion state in the country. I believe they allowed abortion through the 24th week. It was either 2 or through. I need to go look that up. But either way, I mean, we're talking second trimester. It was terrible.
Right.
And so, but they knew that with the power of politics, that law could be overturned again if they didn't get enough support. Well, what did New York have? New York, like it does today, has lots and lots of Catholics. And Lawrence later said, every good revolution, every war needs a point man. Well, he knew he couldn't go after all of the Catholic Church. It's too big and it was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. So he said, we're going to make the Catholic bishops our point of opposition. And this is very, very, it's just so devious. It's so dark. But that's what they did. So anytime a woman died or was maimed due to complications of an illegal abortion, he would blame the Catholic cardinals, the bishops, the local priests. It was all the Catholic hierarchy's fault. And I think what I'm about to share is really, really important because the fear is no longer there. On January 9th, 1971, so this is less than a year after they made abortion legal, into the second trimester in New York, something kept happening over and over. These little babies in the second trimester were surviving second trimester abortions. They were surviving saline abortions. So they were being burnt with saline, that's salt water, in their mother's womb, but some of the babies were coming out alive and surviving. They might be blind, their skin might be burnt, but they were alive. Well, when Lawrence later caught on to this, he was so afraid of what the opposition elements might do with this news. So the question is, who or what was he afraid of? Well, the number one thing that he was afraid of was what the Catholic Church was going to do with this news. He was afraid. So the question is, how or why is NARAL? They're not afraid of the Catholic Church anymore. And why do I say that? Because you look at the statistics on Catholic U.S. senators or representatives in Washington, D.C., the ones who are Catholic. Most of them are in support of abortion. Mm-hmm. How did that happen? Well, the answer is the Catholic strategy.
Right. And, using them, it's encouraging the support of these, from these Catholic appointed officials to promote abortion. And that's what it says here in the underline. This savvy political strategy, still in effect today, encourages political support for legalized abortion from Catholics who are personally opposed to abortion. And it tells you that you can be personally pro-life, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, vote pro-abortion.
That's right. That's the fourth element of the Catholic strategy. The strategy had 4 tactics to it, and you just named the fourth one, which is the Catholic straddle. So, and that's what they would say is, well, there's a whole lot. We could do a whole show just on the Catholic strategy, and we probably should. But just for your listeners today to know is that they knew that they already had some Catholics fully supporting abortion. But what about all the other ones who were really trying to be obedient to the Catholic magisterium? That's the Catholic teaching. And so they would say, Mr. and Mrs. Catholic, you can against abortion, but every woman should be free to make her own choice, her own decision. And that way they gave the voting pro-life Catholic the straddle that, it's like, okay, I can still be pro-life myself, but it's okay to go vote for pro-choice, pro-abortion John Doe, senator or candidate.
Right.
And that is going full blast today. And I'm realizing I give presentations just on the strategy, and I'd be happy to do it for you, Adam, for your show, in the future. But this is so important for it. So I say this, that if I knew I could only live 6 more months, what I would want is every American Catholic, especially, to know all about the Catholic strategy. So we're getting ready to launch the Catholic strategy website. So we're going to get America educated on this.
That's incredible. And it's like such an achievable goal. Go ahead, Alex.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say that I have had discussions with other pro-choice before. And the main thing that I always try to come back to over and over again is, well, we have freedom. So who are you to say what some other woman can do to her body? Like, who are you to judge other people for what they do? And I always feel like the thing that I always say, and I try to help them to understand, is that it's not the woman's body that they're killing. They're killing somebody else's body. They're not harming their own. Because I always just keep trying to come back to them, like, we live in America. We have our freedom. Who are you to tell us what to do?
Right. Yep. Bravo. Good for you.
Exactly.
I remember going to a NARAL fundraiser. I decided I wanted to see how do they raise money for abortion. And so it was in Virginia, and I arrived a little bit early before the main event, and I was sort of just standing behind a column, like hoping nobody would see me. And but then this young lady walked up to me. She was, like 28 years old, and I thought, well, let me strike up a conversation with her. And I actually used the title of my book, and I said, what if we've been wrong on this? And she looked at me, and she's like, what do you mean, what if we've been wrong? I'm like, well, just what if there's a better way? And Alex, to kind of tag on what you're saying, she said, well, it's just a fetus. And I said, well, that's one of the problems I'm having, is I decided to homeschool my kids. And we began studying Latin, and my kids made the discovery that in Latin, fetus means young child or young living child. And so I could go on this story, but just being brave, because we have the truth. And if we can love other people with the truth, which is our motto at Jose Initiative, sometimes the truth is ugly. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's exposing lies, but it's the truth. And if we love people with the truth, God will bless our efforts. Lives will be saved. And the other big thing, and that's a whole nother show, but we will end up seeing the rate of breast cancer go down. Absolutely. Because there is a connection between abortion and breast cancer.
Right. Yes. I remember just as one of the quick final notes, I was in my ninth grade freshman year biology course. Mm-hmm. I did a research paper on contraception and the health risks associated with that. The thing is, when you call it women's healthcare, and then you see all these side effects given, like specifically with breast cancer, but also with, the mental effects. We did this with Amanda, How Abortion Harms Women, a couple weeks ago. But, this is just a crazy thing that you're calling it women's healthcare. This is like a knockdown to the lie that it's women's healthcare. But these women, they're still dying. Like there are still casualties associated with this that are being covered up, that are being, shown without the shadow of abortion, right there. It's all just, hidden and not
absolutely shown. And that made Dr. Nathanson, once he became pro-life, which I guess we better say it, so right. People understand, why did the father of the abortion industry become pro-life? And it's because in 1973, the hospital he was working at rolled in a brand new technology. It's brand new, and it was real-time ultrasound. And the father of the abortion industry sees the baby for the very first time on real-time ultrasound. And he sees the baby smiling and yawning and wiggling her toes. And he recognizes his second patient. Those are his words. And as the more he learned about, the baby in the womb, he had to be intellectually honest with himself. Well, for 2 years, he begged NARAL to reconsider what they had done, push for legalized abortion, because he said, we have a medical, moral, ethical issue on our hands. And NARAL, he said, being the good Stalinist type organization, truth didn't matter to them. They had already gotten what they wanted. Mm-hmm. And so he ends up resigning from NARAL on the second anniversary of Roe v. Wade. That's when he submits his resignation letter. So And so it was the science of real-time ultrasound. I think it's really important to note that he was an atheist. He did not become a Christian until 1996. So he went all those years, 1975, after he resigned, to 1996. I think that's an important thing, because it doesn't take being a Christian to be pro-life. I've talked probably more about Jesus on this show than anybody, but it doesn't take being a Christian to be pro-life. He said it was the science that drove him to be intellectually honest with himself.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like, I think Dr. Bernard Nathanson's story is just so incredible. And like, if people knew about this, think about the impact it would have if people knew that the abortion king came to a conversion point where he could say verifiably that it was wrong and it was murder. And I just think that's so incredible. So for the Hosea Initiative, I was wondering, would you mind telling listeners where can we find your book? Where can we go on and get it?
Yeah, and I'm really excited because you're part of Great Life Teens, like Alex, right? And we're running a special, and it's to benefit Great Life Teens. So if everybody watching this will please go get the book. This is a great value. It's $19.95. Here's an image of the book. Whoop, right here. And it's $19.95. Go to abortionking.com. Don't go to Amazon. Go to abortionking.com. That's my publisher. The reason why this is important is Amazon takes 50% of profits from the author, 50% of revenue. And if you get it from abortionking.com, that's my pro-life publisher. And it gives me a margin where I can share profits with Great Life Teens. So when you go in there, put in the code when you go to buy your paperback. And this is only on the paperback, not the ebook, but get the paperback and put it when you go to, it's like the second screen when you're getting ready to load in your credit card information up top, there's a code section, and put in GL Teens for Great Life Teens, GL Teens. And then I'll be able to share a significant amount of revenue with Great Life Teens. So if 100,000 teenagers buy this, Great Life Teens is funded. If 1 million, they're all over the world.
Right.
So, and the other thing why this story, so we're resurrecting Dr. Bernard Nathanson's story. It's a really, really easy book to read. It's jam-packed full of the real story of me trying to fulfill the promise I made to Dr. Nathanson, which is to teach America. But also, we have fantastic appendices. Most people, Adam and Alex, have never read Norma McCorvey's affidavit. She's the Roe of Roe v. Wade. Most people don't even know she tried to overturn the Roe v. Wade decision 30 years later. Well, her affidavit as a pro-lifer, the affidavit that she submitted, her lawyers did, to the Supreme Court, it's in the back of my book. And it reads like at a 9th grade level. 9th or 10th grade level, and read it with a tissue in your hand. And I'm telling you now that the abortion industry is counting on people never reading that affidavit. The affidavit alone can help shift people over, because that poor young scared woman was used by pro-abortion attorneys. And then the last thing I want to say, there's another appendix in there written by her attorneys, and they wrote the appendix just for my book, and it explains assumptions the Supreme Court made in the Roe v. Wade decision. And that's a whole nother show where we could flush these 6 mistakes that the Supreme Court judges made. And this is the stuff people know. And I'm telling you, they know they have this tool and they have this tool right here. They are set. They could go up again to lovingly debate any pro-choice person, and they've got everything they need, right? Pretty much right there.
Absolutely. And throughout April, we're going to be doing a book club on Terry's book, What If We've Been Wrong? Keeping My Promise to America's Abortion King. We're going to be doing a book club on that and bringing it down. So definitely go check this out. Go buy yourself a copy of the book so you can follow along, read along with the chapters, and then tune in for the live streams going on weekly. And we'll have more information about that, all of our Instagram, stuff like that. But please do buy the book and by supporting Miss Beatley's book and by buying this and educating yourself on Dr. Bernard Nathanson's story, you're in effect helping us produce more content for you to enjoy and for you to consume and share with your pro-choice friends. So I believe next week we're back to our regularly scheduled Ask, Analyze, Argue format. And then the week after that, we will be here with a woman named Marianne, who is someone who almost got caught in an abortion. So that's a very exciting story to share. I just want to thank both of you all for coming on today. I am this episode has helped me, become more on fire about the actual achievability of the overturning of Roe v. Wade and the end to abortion in America.
It's so achievable. It so is. And just, it's my people perish for lack of knowledge. That's what you're doing, and give the people the knowledge because people will align with truth, enough of them. We will end this just like slavery was ended. Hopefully it won't be a civil war, but slavery is done and gone with, so.
Exactly.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming on.
Yes,
and
thank you.
I hope to have you on again and talk about the Catholic strategy.
Okay. Thank you.
And of course, yeah. So I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see y'all listeners next week. Have a great day.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.